In a low, hesitating voice, Pippin began again, and slowly his words grew clearer and stronger. I saw a dark sky and tall battlements, he said, and tiny stars. It seemed very far away and long ago, yet hard and clear. Then the stars went in and out. They were cut off by things with wings. Very big, I think, really. But in the glass, they looked like bats wheeling round the tower. I thought there were 9 of them. One began to fly straight towards me, getting bigger and bigger. I tried to get away because I thought it would fly out. But when it had covered all the globe, it disappeared. Then he came. He did not speak so that I could hear words. He just looked, and I understood.
Welcome to the Wayward Wizards podcast. Today we're reading Book 3, Chapter 11 of The Two Towers, The Palantir. My name is Logan.
And my name is Zach. Hey, a little bit of housekeeping before we start today. We'd love it if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. If you could subscribe on both those platforms, subscribe on YouTube. It really helps people find the podcast. So if you really love the podcast, don't forget, go and leave a review. It really goes a long way.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a pretty cool chapter, Zach. It's like...
I love this chapter.
It's a lot of Gandalf's kind of like, cool, mysterious, the world is going to end type of like prognostications and stuff like that, which is like so...
Yeah.
I just like love it. He's like...
Yeah.
He's like talking about the forces and the thing that flies over the place and the Palantir that reaches out across time, and you're like, oh, hook it up to my veins.
In the depths of time that can't be measured in years.
It's so great.
Yeah, there's so many like little folk sayings in this chapter. I think we should, anytime we come across a folk saying, we should read it aloud and talk about it. I think it's something that Tolkien does that adds such a sense of like age to this. I mean, none of these folk sayings, like he invented all these, like
but they
60,
all sound
70
like
years
things
ago.
You're like, yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, people have been saying that for 5,000 years. We got Gandalf getting horny about Shadowfax in this chapter.
Maybe
Pippin really like baits him with that. Pippin's like, hey, you want to tell me about this horse? And Gandalf's like, oh, do I want to tell you about this horse?
Is this the fastest horse in the world, Gandalf? It's like, yes.
Gandalf, is this the best horse that ever lived? Oh, young hobbit, let me tell you about Shadowfax, my boyfriend. Speaking of horniness, there's something vaguely sexual about Pippin's like yearning to look into the Palantir. Like, there's something about it where it's like his like greediness, his like itchy palms. There's something irresistible about this Palantir that I said at the time, and I still like was thinking about it. This chapter has like a vaguely sexual undertone to it, and people talk forever about how there's no sexuality in Lord of the Rings. And, it is true, but there is like this irresistibility to powerful things that people get drawn into. The other thing I thought that the Palantir we could really relate it to is the ring itself. In fact, it's older than the ring we learned in this chapter.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I think it definitely affects even Gandalf that way. He really feels this like strong desire to look into it.
Temptation.
Even after he knows what it is, he has it with him, and he really wants to take a look, even though he knows that it would be bad for him.
There's a sense that Saruman, his corruption came from looking into the Palantir.
Because Sauron has the other end, though, right? It's not just the... Mm-hmm. Although I do think the power the Palantir gives you to like look abroad, even if it's just small glances, is really not good for you.
No. And we learn later that Denethor's madness is due to him striving with the Dark Lord by looking into the Palantir. And so I think that Saruman, in his like being too big for his britchesness, thought
Mm-hmm.
that he could look into the Palantir without any consequences. But I think the implication is that, like, this is a powerful force that can overtake people if their minds aren't strong enough to handle it. And maybe that the only person who really has a right to look into the Palantir is Aragorn himself because of his lineage. The fact that these were brought over the sea by the Númenóreans, his ancestors. And so I think, like, even if Gandalf were to try and use it as a tool, similar to the way that the ring corrupts people who are unprepared to handle its power. And these aren't evil things, but they are, like, profoundly powerful things. And there's a danger to that. It's perilous.
Right. The power is corrupting. Even though the thing wasn't made for evil, like the ring, the power that it gives you maybe gives you like an inflated sense of yourself or something, and that ability to like reach out your thoughts and your will. It's not really natural, right? Nobody has that ability, or very, very few kind of have that ability, innately. And so somehow, and there's almost, I mean, I couldn't help thinking about cell phones the whole time that I was reading, like some of the lines about the way this like particular technology, like beckons you to look into it and gives you an idea that you're connected in some way. I was like, oh man, this is so, cell phone coded these days.
It's prescient. Even the dark screen, the dark glass, and you look at it and it's illuminated from the inside, and it like draws you in.
Like Black Mirror idea, right? Yeah.
The other thing that I love about this chapter, there's a lot of callbacks in this chapter to other sections of the book. I tried my best to go back and find the quotations in the book that this is like calling back to. I found 3 like really interesting ones, but I'm sure there's more. We talk about tone and like tonal shifts a lot on the pod. The tone in this one seems kind of markedly different to me. I just have the sense that like this is when Tolkien is like fully like in charge of the story. He has like all the details worked out. The way that it kind of like intertextually is like calling back to the beginning of the book, but also foreshadowing the end. And we talked about too, it's like kind of smack in the middle. Like we are like halfway through this project. I just think it's a perfect chapter. And he is like so in command of his craft, and he is almost like quoting himself throughout the entire chapter in a way that you can see that the book, like by the time I think he's writing this draft, I think the book is like basically finished in his mind. Like I think he knows exactly where he's going.
Yeah, he can see the arc toward the end.
All right, so let's just jump right in. They're riding away from Isengard. Gandalf's got Merry behind him on Shadowfax, and Pippin's pretty sore about that. He wishes that he was riding with Dad, and he's upset that Merry gets to do it and ask him all kinds of questions. They pass this train. It's all of our characters, Theoden and his riders, Gandalf, Merry, the 3 hunters, everybody. And they pass the Pillar of the White Hand, and now it's knocked down on the ground and crumbling. And it says that the red nails are fading to black. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Is that because they had blood on them or something?
I don't know. Do you think that's the implication, that the red nails were
weird.
painted with blood?
I mean, blood turns black when it like dries, But it also says the Ents pay attention to every detail.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that just meant it's cool that they knocked this hand down, or
that's the sense that I got. But it is a strange thing to say, isn't it? It's kind of like, any evil thing they're not going to let stand. They're gonna knock it over. I mentioned earlier about all the callbacks. Merry says, "Are we riding far tonight, Gandalf? I don't know how you feel with a small ragtag dangling behind you, but the ragtag is tired, and I will be glad to stop dangling and lie down." That is referencing something that just happened like 5 pages ago in my edition. Sauron, when he's kind of excoriating Gandalf for hanging out with all these losers, when he's talking about how the Rohirrim like roll around in their own urine or whatever. He says, "If you wish to treat with me while you have a chance, go away and come back when you are sober and leave behind these cutthroats and small ragtag that dangle at your tail. Good day. And that's what he says right before he calls him back and breaks his staff and casts him from the council and stuff. But it's interesting. It seems like this touched a nerve with Merry. He didn't like to be called small.
But Gandalf's like, don't let it bother you. He's thinking about you more than he's thinking about me right now because he's trying to figure out who you are and how you escaped and all that.
It's great. That's great. He's like, it's a compliment. A sneer from him is a compliment. But Merry is like, hey, thanks, dog. Like, that was nice of you to say. But he says, it's a greater honor to dangle at your tail, Gandalf, which I think is sweet. He's kind of turning the insult into, he's like, if I can dangle at your tail, that's a pretty great place to be.
Yeah.
But what he says here, I think, is awesome. He goes, for one thing, it puts me in a position to ask a question a second time. And then he says, are we riding far tonight? So Gandalf never actually even answered his question. He's like, hey, like, would you answer my original question, please?
Yeah. Are we there yet?
Yeah.
I like that Gandalf says all wizards should have a hobbit or two in their care.
Yeah, I love that.
To teach them the meaning of the word unquenchable and to correct them. I beg your pardon. That's so great.
And he's basically like, yeah, we're going to take it easy tonight, but tomorrow we got to go faster.
The hobbits are really childlike in this chapter, I realized.
Yeah.
In this way that, they're riding with the adults and they're asking all these questions. And then later on, Gandalf almost holds Pippin like a child or like a baby, swaddled.
And he scolds him. He scolds him like a child too.
Yeah.
There's definitely a fatherly annoyance. And they are unquenchable. Pippin later is like asking about like the Palantir and he says he wants to know like the entire history of Middle Earth. Gandalf's like, will you stop asking me questions? Like, what more do you want to know? And he's like, I want to know everything, dude. Like, I want to know everything that there is to know.
Did we miss the part where they ride out? They ride out like under like an arch that the Ents make.
Are you talking about when they look back and see the Ents like standing in a row?
Oh, yeah. Ents solemn now stood like statues at the gate with their long arms uplifted, but they made no sound. And so it felt to me like another
archway,
or like like the kings are like leaving Isengard.
Almost like their sabers are held up and they're walking underneath it.
Yeah, like when Strider and the hobbits leave Bree.
Of all of your insights, I think that your insight about the parade atmosphere of them leaving Bree, I love that insight because it's like an ironic kingly procession. He's leaving and they're holding him with like derision. He looks like this like homeless like wanderer,
and he's got a bunch of little kids with him.
Yeah. And it's like they're mocking him, but they can tell that there's something special about this guy.
Right.
Like he kind of can't fully conceal his majesty.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't clock this. That's neat.
I love that. And then I love when they look back, they see Treebeard alone.
Yeah.
Like a distant stump of an old tree, which is kind of what they thought he was when they first saw him.
Yeah,
and the hobbits saw their first meeting upon the sunny ledge far away on the borders of Fangorn. Wow, how much has happened in those just few days,
Yeah, they're going to miss this guy. But jumping back, thanks for bringing us back. I think that was a worthy...
I just like that image.
So they pause for the night and they kind of set up their bivouac. It sounds like the most uncomfortable camping experience that you could possibly have. They're sleeping in bracken. And Merry and Pippin sort of launch into hobbitry. That's another thing this chapter has a bunch of is just Merry and Pippin just kind of cutting it up with each other.
It's probably why I like it so much.
They talk about Gandalf and how he's changed and also kind of how he's not changed.
Mm-hmm.
And Pippin is jealous that Merry got to sit behind Gandalf and ask him questions. But Merry is pretty much like, hey, I didn't get much out of the guy. Pippin says, essentially, he's not changed at all. And Merry says, oh, yes, he is. He says, he has grown or something. He can be both kinder and more alarming, merrier and more solemn than before, I think. He has changed, but we have not had a chance to see how much yet. He cast down Sauron and he broke his rod and he cast him out of the council, whatever that means.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's Gandalf is still himself, but more so. Like anything about him has kind of been
Advanced.
enhanced,
Yeah.
and I love that the hobbits can like see that, but they don't really even know what the council is.
Mm-mm.
So like they've heard that word, but they're like, I don't know what that means.
It's
But
like, hey,
yeah,
remember when he said I cast you out of the council?
I
What the
guess he,
heck was that?
I guess he's in charge of it now because he like broke his rod staff,
It's
and
interesting they use the word rod here. Did you notice that?
yeah, it is odd. His rod was taken.
The word rod definitely has like sort of like almost like a kingly connotation,
Yeah, his rod and
um,
his staff.
or even like a kind of almost like a biblical sound to it, right? Like
Yeah,
his rod and his staff that comfort me. It's like got kind of like a Psalm 23 kind of a
Psalm 23 makes it sound like they're two different things.
his rod and his staff.
A staff you sort of you use to, support yourself when you're hiking around, and a rod is more like something
Weapon.
you like, a weapon or something you use like to command people around or something like that.
In The Hobbit, his staff is often called a wand,
Yeah.
which when I started doing like kind of my more like intense deep reading of this a couple years ago, I incorrectly had this image that he had both a staff and a wand, and I kind of imagined like a Harry Potter style kind of like bibbity bobbity boo kind of wand. I looked it up, and he just uses the word wand and staff kind of interchangeably in The Hobbit. I don't think it's ever referred to as a wand in Lord of the Rings. Have you ever seen it? So I don't
I
think the
don't
word wand is
recall
used
it.
at all. Staff is used more commonly. This is the first time I've heard it referred to as a rod, but I
Mm.
think we can use all those terms kind of interchangeably. Wand, rod, staff. Theoden calls his stick. What does he call it? Not a crutch. My aid. My
Yeah, it's something like that. It's
um.
not crutch, but you're right. It's like it's along the same lines as that, or cane or something. Yeah,
It's not cane either.
he
It's
doesn't
like
use that. Yeah,
like the thing I bend on. The thing my prop. That's what he calls it.
prop.
You know.
Yeah, that's it.
Um. So like, there's all kinds of words used for this, but Gandalf's own name, um, a gand is a staff, or a prop, something you lean on, and it definitely like kind of like means that he's old. Something that he leans on. He's bent, and so he has to lean against something.
Yeah,
So I just thought it was an interesting word choice there, calling it a rod.
yeah, that is interesting. So this next part, we get a couple paragraphs on Pippin's obsession with the Palantir.
Yeah,
Although I guess we don't really know yet that it's a Palantir. We just know it's a crystal ball, a glass ball.
it's got a hook in him. He's not able to get over it.
Right. And Pippin, he seems really jealous, you know. He's like, he's got that glass ball now, and he's so pleased with it. And he almost seems kind of angry at Gandalf that Gandalf has it. And, oh, here, I'll take it, my lad. And that's all he said. I wonder what it is. It was really heavy, and he can't get it out. You can like tell he can't get it out of his mind. And he's almost talking to himself. It says Pippin's voice fell very low, as if he was talking to himself. That reminds me of Gollum.
Yeah, it's got like that kind of Gollum quality, doesn't it?
So Merry notices that Pippin is like down bad, and he says, "Whoa, what's bothering you?" Now, Pippin, my lad, don't forget Gildor's saying, the one Sam used to quote. Do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they're subtle and quick to anger. Which I haven't thought about that in a minute,
Yeah, okay, so this is the second kind of callback that I kind of flagged in this chapter. Gildor, not to be confused with Galdor, which I think that's actually a mistake that I made in the Council of Elrond chapter. I thought Gildor and Galdor were the same person.
It's confusing.
Not the same person. Okay, so Gildor, if you remember, all the way back in 3 is Company. So like right at the beginning of Fellowship, Sam, Frodo, and Pippin are making their way to meet Merry and Fatty. Merry isn't there. They're running away from the Black Riders, and they're given sanctuary by these elves who kind of like scare off the Black Rider with their like goodness and merrymaking. And they feed them, and they give them advice. But when Frodo is talking to Gildor, That's where we got the great advice, which is like, take what friends with you as you can. But also he says this line here, this exactly this line: do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger. And Frodo's response is great. He says, it also is said, don't ask elves for advice because they'll tell you both no and yes. But the thing that is really interesting to me is Merry says, don't forget Gildor's saying, the one that Sam used to quote, and then he gives the exact quote. It's because Merry wasn't there.
Yeah.
So he has to relate it through another character.
Through Sam. Right.
Through Sam. So I just thought that was a really clever, interesting callback that I never noticed before.
I also like that it gives us some insight into, like off-screen action, so to speak, where, the hobbits are telling these stories to each other, and Sam, you can imagine sort of Sam, murmuring this to himself.
Yeah, maybe in Moria or something.
Yeah, when he's like upset with Gandalf or something.
Yeah. Or maybe when Merry and Pippin are complaining about how Gandalf isn't doing what they want him to do, maybe he's saying like, now Master Merry and Pippin,
just
remember what old Gildor said back in the forest. Don't you go messing with the affairs of wizards. But I think it's, and I also mentioned earlier how there's all kinds of folk sayings. This seems to have like the veracity of like,
oh yeah,
this is something that people have been saying for a long time.
Yeah, I love that one. It's a great line.
But Pippin's response is great.
Merry's warning about the anger of wizards kind of sparks Pippin's own anger.
Yeah.
He says, our whole life for months has been meddling in the affairs of wizards. I should like a bit of information as well as danger. I should like to look at that ball.
It's like, come on, man. Like, I'm sticking my neck out all this time, and all I want to do is look at that ball. And Dad won't even let me look at the ball for like 5 minutes. It's not even.
I don't want to touch it. I just want to look at it. It's not a big deal. And Merry's like, just go to sleep. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, take a cold shower, bud.
Yeah, Merry can't really understand what's going on with Pippin. And I think maybe he's probably never seen Pippin in this kind of state. I like this one too. This is another line that sort of fringes on that kind of folk wisdom. No toke ever beat a brandy book for inquisitiveness.
Yeah.
But I guess the roles are reversed.
He's like, hey, I'm inquisitive, but you're pushing me beyond my patience. Is this where he tells him to count on his fingers? No, that was back, about a page before.
Yeah, Merry's like trying to fall asleep. He's almost asleep when Pippin starts this whole conversation. He kind of has to wake up.
How long has it been since I've, slept in a real bed? And he's like, are you sleeping on an anthill over there? Like you're wiggling too much, dude. I can't sleep.
Don't talk to me about it. You're keeping me up.
And he goes like, how long has it been since I've slept in a real bed? And he's like, well, how long ago is it since we were in Lothlorien, dude? And he's like, no, that doesn't count. There we slept in like the bowl of a tree or whatever, like on the floor.
Well, that's right.
He's like, well, I guess it was Rivendell then. But he's like, just work it out on your fingers, man. Like, leave me alone. I just think is such an interesting way of just calling him a dummy. He's like, all right, if you can't remember that far back, do like a little counting on your fingers. All right.
Yeah. You don't have to talk to me about it.
Yeah. I just thought that, but yeah, his response is so good. But yeah, you're right. Merry he's just so frustrated. He's like, Pippin's like, all right, Gandalf's over there sitting on it like a hen on an egg. And Merry is like, I'll be as curious as you want after breakfast. And I'll help in any way that I can at wizard wheedling, which, peak
right.
Tolkien alliteration, wizard wheedling.
Yeah.
But I can't keep awake any longer. If I yawn anymore, I shall split at the ears. Good night.
It's kind of a big brother, little brother, dynamic here. Like Merry has a little bit of authority over Pippin, but Pippin, not enough that Pippin's like really going to respect it. So they can still go back and forth. But Merry's like, go to bed. If you don't lie still, you'll never fall asleep. Like, what are you doing? Count on your fingers.
You're shaking the bunk bed. All right.
Right. Yeah.
I regret letting you sleep on top.
We can talk about it in the morning. But Pippin can't sleep. His desire is such that he has to touch this thing. And I think there's a sense here that And actually, they get into this a little bit later. I think it's really psychologically astute that it's not that Pippin did a bad thing that he didn't want to do.
So he knew it was wrong and he did it.
He said he knew that it was wrong and he did it anyway. And there's almost like some, he sort of like chose to do the thing because it felt good, because it was wrong. That's really deeply, I think, psychologically insightful.
And that's kind of getting at why I said there's some vaguely sexual undertones to this.
Right.
It's like, I know what is wrong, and yet I do the thing that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
There's something delicious about doing something that you're not supposed to do.
Yep.
There's a taboo to it. And we talked all the way back in the very first chapter. I was actually just listening to the first episode a few weeks ago. And we talked about how kind of a misconception about hobbits is that they are like perfect little angels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That they live in this like Edenic shire and they make no mistakes. But they're actually, they're gossipy and they steal and they, they fib.
I think we said they're naughty.
They're naughty. That's right. There's a naughtiness. And Pippin has done this a few times. He's done something he knows he's not supposed to do. The perfect example of this is the rock dropped down the well in Moria. He knew he shouldn't do it, but he just could not resist. It says, at last he could stand it no longer. He got up and looked around. It was chilly and he wrapped his cloak about him. The moon was shining cold and white. Down into the dell and the shadows of the bushes were black. All about lay sleeping shapes. So he's the last one awake. He's tossing and turning. He kind of can't get this urge out of his mind. And it says,
where's Legolas? Isn't he like daydreaming somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. He's like, oh, hey, go back to bed.
Yeah. No, he must be staring off into the moonlight or something.
He's remembering something that happened in Mirkwood 5,000 years ago or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It says, driven by some impulse he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where Gandalf lay. He looked down at him. The wizard seemed asleep, but with lids not fully closed. So Gandalf's sleeping with his eyes open, which I think is pretty cool. And then Pippin pulls a classic Looney Tunes gag here. Gandalf's got this bundle in front of him under his arm, and Pippin gets a rock and does an old switcheroo.
He wraps it in his cloak, and it's like Indiana Jones, the beginning of Raiders.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he grabs this bundle off Gandalf. He does his switcheroo, and it says it did not seem quite so heavy as he had expected. So it's almost like there's a sense that this thing changes weight, or your perceived weight of the thing changes.
Mm-hmm.
Before he was talking about how heavy it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, only some bundle of oddments perhaps after all, he thought with a strange sense of relief. But he did not put the bundle down again. He stood for a moment clasping it. Then an idea came into his mind. Well, I guess so he doesn't do the switcheroo until after that moment.
Yeah, he takes it first, and then he's like, shoot, maybe I should have. It's weird because he has the idea. I mean, it sort of reveals how it's funny because we thought, surely he switches the things at the same time.
Yeah.
But he's
an afterthought.
He's so bad at this.
Yeah. He's not like, he's like a child.
He's like, shoot. He kind of panics. He's like, I guess I should put something so Gandalf doesn't realize that it's gone, And then he's actually right to do that because Gandalf does kind of stir in his sleep and then
he says some words.
Sighs when he realizes he still has, or thinks that he still has the ball. But Pippin's just not.
He's not.
He's naughty here, but he's not it's not like he's practiced in this kind of.
He's
deception.
not like a master burglar or anything,
right?
But I thought it was interesting the strange sense of relief, when he picks it up and he thinks, oh, I guess I nicked the wrong thing. The sense of relief, this shows that he knows that what he's doing is wrong.
Yeah,
he's almost
guilty conscience.
He's almost like, oh, thank God,
right.
I didn't actually do this thing that I was trying to do. So he knows that what he's doing is sneaky and deceptive and not right.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, it is the Palantir. He draws off the cloth, says, at last he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was, a smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees. Pippin lifted it, covered it hurriedly in his own cloak, and half turned to go back to his bed. And that's the moment when Gandalf kind of stirs and starts murmuring strange words in his sleep. Pippin says, "You idiotic fool."
Yeah,
that almost could come from Gandalf's lips, couldn't it?
He says, "I'll just give it back now without waking him."
Yeah, it's not too late to turn back.
But I better, I guess I better have a look first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of gets away from Gandalf. But I think it's cool. There's still sort of an observer here.
Yeah.
The moon looked in over the edge of the dell.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, the cosmos is like
he can't
watching what he's doing. He can't really get away to himself. And it says that he bent over the ball like a greedy child, stooping over a bowl of food in a corner away from the others.
Yeah, there's that naughtiness.
Then it really starts to pop off. And it's, this is shorter than I remembered it being.
Yeah, it's just a single paragraph.
But it says it was dark. It's got this we were talking about this before, the kind of like Black Mirror,
Yeah, black as jet.
Black as jet, and the moonlight gleamed on its surface, but then a glow starts to stir in the heart of it. So it kind of knows that it's being observed.
Yeah.
And it says it held his eyes so that he couldn't look away.
Locks him in.
Locks you in and
entrances him.
Yeah, it starts to spin inside, but then the lights go out and he gets closer and closer and becomes kind of rigid. And his lips move silently. It's entranced him,
Yes, yeah.
And with a strangled cry, he falls back and lies still. And then that kind of wakes everybody up.
It says he gave a gasp and struggled, but he remained bent, clasping the ball with both hands. I thought almost about if you are electrocuted, you can't.
That's how it seems.
Your hands grasp it and you actually can't let go of the thing that's killing you. It says closer and closer he bent and then became rigid. His lips moved soundlessly for a while. So it's he is being drawn into the ball. Psychically, spiritually, that's exactly what's happening.
Yep.
Also, the soundlessness of his lips. We find out that this is a means of psychic communication. It's not a telephone.
Yeah, that's what Gandalf says later, that it's to communicate with your thoughts.
Yeah, wordlessly. So, this exchange that Pippin has with the Dark Lord Sauron, the most terrifying spiritual power in all of Middle Earth.
Handmaiden, basically.
Yeah, it's Satan's lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, who in the book has come face to face with Sauron? I think there's only three characters. I think it's Gollum, who has been in the presence of the Dark Lord.
Yeah, Saruman.
He's questioned. Saruman has wrestled with him. Well, I guess I said three. Now I think it's five actually. Gollum was in the physical presence of Sauron, which broke him. Saruman saw it through the Palantir.
Yep.
And that poisoned him to the point of becoming his puppet, even though he thought that he was doing all this of his own. Denethor, whose mind is broken by the Palantir. Now Pippin, and then Aragorn in a couple chapters is going to.
Did Elrond face him down in a battle at some point?
I guess okay. So Gandalf and Elrond and Galadriel cast him out
long time ago.
Barad-dûr.
But that was more in his guise as the
necromancer.
The necromancer. Maybe I don't think he was fully in his
Sauron,
the fullness of his power or whatever.
Right. They were able to cast him out of Dol Guldur in Mirkwood.
But definitely in the fullness of his power here, it's Pippin, Denethor, Saruman, and Aragorn later, and then Gollum, poor Smeagol.
Yeah, poor Smeagol. But it's interesting, Gandalf says later, thank God that I didn't try to look into this thing because I was tempted to. So there's a sense that he wouldn't have been able to handle it. It speaks to the resilience of the hobbits.
Yeah, they're hardy.
Their hardiness that he's able to survive this encounter. And it, almost breaks him. but it doesn't break him.
Yeah, it's not good for him though.
No. And he recovers pretty quickly, but yeah, it's not good for him. But his shriek, wakes everyone. And Gandalf pretty quickly knows exactly what happened. You kind of imagine him being like, "What the heck?" Like, I got a rock, like I'm like nestled up here with a rock. And he goes, "So this is the thief." Pretty harsh words from Gandalf.
It kind of made me, I thought about Bilbo right away there.
Yeah, the good thief.
Something about, thieving hobbits.
Yeah.
But he goes from being pretty mad to, worried in a way about Pippin.
Yeah.
Even while he's saying, what has he done to himself and to all of us?
Yeah.
He says, it says the wizard's face was drawn and haggard, and then he, starts to try to kind of like tend to Pippin, because obviously Pippin's in a bad condition here.
It's interesting. You got almost this kind of like et tu, Brute kind of line here. But you, Pippin, this is a grievous turn to things. So he's like of all the, come on. He's disappointed in this kind of fatherly way. And it says that he listens for his breath. Like he puts his ear to his mouth to make sure he's still alive. Like it's not clear that he has survived this. And he lays his hand over his brow until you get a sense that he's like almost like calling him back to life. He draws him back into consciousness, and the hobbit shudders with his eyes closed. And then he cries out and sits up and stares in bewilderment at all the faces around him, pale in the moonlight.
It's almost like Sauron's thoughts have been sort of downloaded into Pippin's head or something. Like he repeats the last thing that Sauron said to him.
Yes.
It's not for you, Saruman. I'll send for it at once. Do you understand? Because Sauron believes, because this hobbit is the one looking into the
Orthanc stone,
that he must have the ring.
Yeah.
And I think it reveals the extent to which Saruman, is under the sway of Sauron.
Yeah, he's able to command him.
Yeah, that Sauron believes that he can command Saruman. It's so confusing.
Why did he name these two characters so?
I know.
Come on.
Sauron believes that he can order Saruman around.
Yeah, and it's like Saruman's delusion is that he thinks that he's not. Free. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. He's completely unfree.
But he is locked up like a bird in a cage.
Exactly.
And he's going to do what Sauron tells him to do. I think this is a perfect example of like a word of command. Like Sauron tells Pippin to say something. Pippin tonelessly and against his will says that exact voicemail,
Yeah, exactly.
Like he repeats it without question. So like if the Dark Lord tells you to jump, you will jump. And there's no fighting it. You're not going to be able to resist a command from him. But Gandalf says, "Come back, Peregrine." Yeah, and the hobbit relaxes and falls back into the wizard's hand. "Gandalf," he cried. "Gandalf, forgive me." And Gandalf says, "Forgive you? Tell me first what you have done." So it's clear that Gandalf worries that Pippin has just given away the whole game plan here.
What did you tell him?
Yeah.
What did you guys talk about?
Did you tell him about Frodo? Did you tell him that we have the ring?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Sauron's haste, he's like, great. My underling has him locked in the Tower of Orthanc. I'm going to send my Air Force right away to go pick him up. I'm not going to ask him any questions. I'm just going to command Saruman to give him to me. His haste is exactly what allows Pippin to get away.
Sauron jumps to conclusions, and it's his jumping to conclusions that leads him astray.
And it's a perfectly logical conclusion to jump to.
Yeah, and that's funny because it's the same. It kind of like starts the ball rolling, right, toward him assuming that the ring, if Saruman doesn't have it, the ring must be at Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
And then that, allows Aragorn and the company and the whole like nation basically to do this big feint that draws the forces toward the Black Gate and away from Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
Later on, and it's always Sauron's assumption that people are going to operate the same way that he does, with the same
Cold logic.
exactly logic and sort of dominating power rather than this kind of more subtle way that Gandalf has devised.
Gandalf calls Sauron a wise fool.
Right.
And I think Sauron is also a wise fool.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, his haste is what ultimately undoes him. Like, this is the moment that Sauron is going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Saruman has betrayed him. But there's a distrust already. He's like, tell Saruman it's not for him.
He says, tell Saruman that this dainty is not for him. Isn't that what the messenger to King Dane says?
Okay,
it's just a dainty.
I looked this up because I had the exact same thought.
Yeah.
He calls it a trifle.
A trifle. It's a similar thing though, right?
It's the least of all rings.
Yeah, it's just a little, it's just a little trifle. It's just a little dainty. There's nothing to it.
It's the same ironic like construction. He says, "Wait a moment, we shall meet again soon. Tell Sauron this dainty is not for him. I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that."
We shall meet again soon is not what you want to hear from Sauron. That's
No.
not, you don't want to meet him ever, really.
No. And then Pippin says, then he gloated over me. I felt I was falling to pieces. And then he's unable to say any more because it's almost like too traumatic for him to recount this. This just goes to show how powerful Sauron is. Like, you could not survive his interrogation. He is, like, in the same way that the Nazgul flying over terrifies people, it sucks out all their hope. Being in the presence of Sauron, he doesn't need weapons. Like, he terrifies, he daunts, he gloats.
I think all of the looking in this section is interesting,
Yeah, that's why they call him the Eye,
Pippin says, I tried to get away because he sees the Nazgul. And then he came. He did not speak so that I could hear words, and that goes to that psychic kind of communication.
Yeah.
But it says he just looked and I understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's something about, that power of Sauron's eye.
Yeah.
And then down the page a little, Gandalf says, look at me.
Yeah.
Or look at me, said Gandalf.
Look at me. Yeah.
Pippin looked up straight into his eyes. And then the wizard holds his gaze and his face grows gentler. It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if this is conscious for Tolkien, but in the Gospel of John, Jesus is always looking at people. There's all this like looking happening. And there's something about the sight of a person with that kind of power that like can either upbuild or destroy, right?
Yeah.
You can like see into somebody in some way and influence them or have some power over, or almost like a charisma in that look. And so anyway, this just reminded me of that something about attention is like, you don't want the attention of Sauron.
No, but the attention of Gandalf.
But the attention of Gandalf might
kind
of like heal you a little or something.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of why, these Palantir are so dangerous, is because you're exposing yourself to the attention of the worst person in the world.
like spiritually. And it's like stripped of like your the protection of your own body. Like he's able to just peer directly into your mind and read it like a book. Gandalf, his face grows gentler and he smiles. Gandalf's not doing a lot of smiling these days. So I think this is it's almost like a gift that he's given to Pippin to like he is pleased, but he's also maybe like letting him know like, hey, you're a fool, but you're an honest fool.
Does this line here, you've been saved and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune? He's just saying like, you got lucky, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like basically saying like Sauron's haste Like if he had taken a moment to ask you questions here, you would, yeah, you'd be cooked. And okay, so that's the third callback, which I've teased now like 3 times. Do you remember in the Uruk-hai chapter when Grishnak is trying to terrify the hobbits? He talks about the questioner with a capital Q.
Yeah.
And we had some back and forth about who the questioner was. I think we agreed that because it was capitalized, and because of our understanding of like how he interrogated Gollum, that was Sauron himself. And so, yeah, I'll kind of go back to, so this is page 456 in my chapter, so about 100 and some odd pages back. I just want to read this. Grishnak is, talking to Merry and Pippin, and he goes, "My dear, tender little fools, everything you have and everything you know will be out of you in due time. Everything. You'll wish there was more that you could tell to satisfy the questioner. Indeed you will, quite soon. We shan't hurry the inquiry." So that terrifying like image of like you're going to be, put under the magnifying glass, and that ray of light is going to be concentrated right into your brain, and it is going to consume you, and you'll be burned alive by this questioner, with the capital Q. And that's basically what Gandalf says. He goes, "You've been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it is called." So that as it is called holds a lot of weight, because he's saying like, yeah, you might call it good fortune. I think it was actually divine intervention.
That's interesting.
Like this is the result of
not just luck, but yeah,
the streams of fate, which are pushing us towards goodness. But he's like, but you cannot count on it a second time. If he had questioned you then and there, almost certainly you would have told all that you know, to the ruin of us all. And he's like, not only would you tell him all that you know, you would wish that you had more to tell him so that he might show you some mercy. He goes, he did not want information only. He wanted you.
Yeah, it's Sauron's greed and eagerness that, again, is kind of his own downfall.
He wanted to torture you.
He wanted to torture you. He wanted to get you. He doesn't just want to know where the ring is and how to get it. He wants to get at you because you're the one. Because he believes that you're the one who has it and has, upset his plans or is standing in the way of what he most desires, which is, I guess, to dominate all things.
Yeah.
But Gandalf says, and this is a callback to an earlier line, maybe he kind of guesses what Merry and Pippin were talking about or he overheard them. But if you meddle in the affairs of wizards, you must be prepared to think of such things.
Yeah, he's like, hey, you said you wanted to meddle. You meddled, my guy.
Right. And then he just very quickly says, but come, I forgive you. Be comforted. Things have not turned out as evilly as they might. It's actually, like, things went pretty well, actually. All things considered,
things considered, you are yet again a pebble that is tumbling down the side of a mountain causing an avalanche. Like, Merry and Pippin consistently are catalysts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That get the story moving, through their naughtiness, through their inquisitiveness. They start stuff. They started stuff with Treebeard. They started stuff in Moria. They start stuff here. You said that he may have overheard their conversation. I think he's just read Pippin's mind.
Right. That was my other thought, is that he either really knows or overheard. But he probably, I think we do get the sense that he can read minds, and so that's probably what happened here.
Absolutely. He goes, "Trust me. If you feel an itch in your palms again, tell me of it. Such things can be cured."
Don't put a lump of rock under my elbow again, you dummy.
Yeah, come on, dude. I'll leave you two together for a while.
Yeah.
There's an interesting line before when it talks about how they're gathering around, and it says that Merry looks away. He's like embarrassed. He's ashamed of how Pippin acted. And there's like when the Nazgul are about to show up in a minute, because they're all like, all right, crisis averted, I think we're okay. The Nazgûl show up here in just a few more paragraphs, and Merry is like, all right, now he gets exactly what he wanted. He wanted to ride with Gandalf. Psh, he got exactly what he asked for. He should have been turned to a stone himself, he says, as a warning. And so Merry is super annoyed with Pippin here. And it's almost like leaving him alone with Merry is almost like a little bit of a punishment, because you can just imagine the look that Merry is giving Pippin right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the wise kind of peel off, and they go and have their own council. And Gandalf, he says, will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone and guard it? It is a dangerous charge. And Aragorn says, like, hey, yeah, it's dangerous, but
I'm not scared of it.
If there's anybody in this world who has a claim to this thing, it's me.
Right.
Because my forebears brought it over the sea to Middle-earth.
Yep.
Gandalf looks at Aragorn, and then he lifts the covered stone and he bows to Aragorn. And he holds it out to him and he says, receive it, Lord, in earnest of other things that shall be given back. But if I may counsel you on the use of your own, do not use it. Be wary. And Aragorn is like, when have I ever been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many long years? And Gandalf says, never yet. Do not then stumble at the end of your road. So this is in such contradiction to the Aragorn that we get in the films.
Yeah, where he's so conflicted and
he's like, the same
reticent.
The same blood flows in my veins, the same weakness of Isildur. And he doesn't want the crown. He doesn't want to kind of take up the mantle of leadership. Here, he's been preparing for it for long years.
Yeah, and I think that he sees, it's almost like a asset-based, he sees his
inheritance.
Yeah, lineage as a strength.
Yeah, exactly.
And
one that he's prepared for. He's been...
Right. He's like leaned into that strength his whole life and prepared and I think, living like as a ranger, he also has some humility or something.
Yeah.
That he might not otherwise have if he had, grown up in a castle or something.
He's trained like an athlete.
Yeah.
He's had years of not having enough, even though he, by right, should have had the world. But that hard living has prepared him for this moment spiritually. But Aragorn says, at last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor and how it worked. Much is explained. And here's another ancient saying that Tolkien invented 60 years ago. Theoden says, but it has long been said, oft evil will shall evil mar. Oft evil will shall evil mar. Incredible.
Gandalf says,
he says it is strangely fortunate how it played out. Because if he had decided to probe the stone himself, he would have revealed himself to Sauron.
Yeah, maybe I've been saved by this hobbit by a grave blunder.
Yeah.
And then, Gandalf says, I don't know if I would have been able to withdraw myself. It would have been dangerous for him to see me. And the hour has not yet come to kind of reveal myself.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, I kind of think it's here, right? But Gandalf says there's still doubt, right? There's still doubt about where the ring is. There's still doubt about exactly the condition of Sauron. At least he's talking about the doubt that Sauron has. Like Sauron doesn't have all the information yet.
No.
And so they still have time to kind of, even though they've been too leisurely, they still have time to, to continue laying plans and maneuvering.
Yeah. But he's like, we got to get out of the neighborhood of Isengard.
Right. We got to get out of here and we got to get going, basically toward Minas Tirith.
He says we have to snatch this time, which is such an interesting turn of phrase. But he's like, yeah. You know what? Like Sauron moved hastily. We got to take a page out of his book right now.
Right.
Like
time for us to get hasty.
We gotta go. And he's like, not only do we gotta go, we gotta be more careful about how we go. He's like, we can't be moving in large trains or armies like this in ways that are easy to be noticed. Mm-hmm. We gotta go in smaller groups, and we gotta go fast. It's like we have to go with all the speed that we can to Helm's Deep, and then we got to go with all the speed that we can to Adoras after that. And it's in this moment that a vast winged shape passed over the moon like a black cloud, and everyone raises their arms as if to shield a blow, and they are terrified.
Yeah. This is really weird, this image of Gandalf when the Nazgul flies across the moon. It said, they stood up, rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downwards, stiff, his hands clenched.
So everyone else is raising their hands to block a blow, and Gandalf's are down.
And he's like
rigid.
But he's almost, I mean, he's like dumbstruck or something like that too. Even though he's not, I don't really see that as like
he's not relaxed
position of power, right? He's as caught off guard as anybody.
And his response, I think, is really telling. He goes, Nazgul, the messenger of Mordor, the storm is coming. The Nazgul have crossed the river. Ride, ride, wait not for the dawn. Let not the swift wait for the slow. Ride. Save yourselves. Like, don't wait for the slow. Like,
and they had still, I think, kind of planned to, send some people ahead and send some people behind and get some sleep, and that's all over now.
Yeah. He's like, nope, we got to go. And so he calls Shadowfax to him. He scoops up Pippin, puts him in Gandalf's arms, wraps him in a cloak and blanket.
This is the part that made me think of him as like a baby almost. Aragorn lifted Pippin and set him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped in cloak and blanket. He's like swaddled.
Yeah, he's like in a car seat.
Yeah, and it doesn't say that, he's sitting on the horse. He's being held by Gandalf, and then they run off like that.
Yeah, set him in Gandalf's arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume at some point Gandalf puts him down, but at least to begin here, until he kind of starts to recover, he's being cradled by Gandalf.
I love that.
We keep talking about Gandalf as like a dad in this
yeah.
chapter, but it definitely feels that way here.
Here's perfect hobbitry. Gandalf and Pippin spring away on Shadowfax, and Merry looks to Aragorn, and imagine Aragorn standing up 6 foot plus, Merry just shy of 4 feet now at this point, but like teeny tiny. You can almost imagine him with his like hands in his like crossed across his, and just shaking his head disapprovingly, and he goes, "A beautiful restful night." He's like, "Oh my god!" Like Pippin, like
that's so funny.
He goes, "Some folks have wonderful luck." He did not want to sleep, and he wanted to ride with Gandalf, and there he goes. Instead of being turned into a stone himself to stand here forever as a warning. So he's almost like clucking his tongue, like, two adults, like one adult to the other, talking about the naughty child. He's like, hey, this is your son, okay?
Right.
But Aragorn has a moment of humility here. He goes, hey, if you had been the first to touch the Orthanc stone, and not he, how would it be now?
Mm-hmm.
You might have done worse.
Mm-hmm.
Who can say? But now it is your luck to come with me, I fear. At once, go and get ready and bring anything that Pippin left behind. Make haste.
Now we're back on Shadowfax.
And Pippin's like, hey, Gandalf, I didn't know you rode bareback.
And Pippin begins to recover and immediately starts asking questions.
Yeah. Gandalf goes, I do not ride elf fashion except on Shadowfax. It's like, okay, as if they're not like being pursued by, forces of evil. They're just having a little side conversation about how sick Shadowfax is.
Tolkien loves this horse, man.
I know.
It's kind of weird. I mean, like, why do we get all these details about Shadowfax? Like, I get it. It's a like magic horse. Like, that's cool.
It's like,
but
bro, I don't really need of these descriptions at this point.
Yeah, like I get it at this point. Like I know that he's fancy and that you don't ride him with, you don't. Otherwise, I don't ride him elf fashion, just on Shadowfax, because I'm not riding Shadowfax. Shadowfax is letting us ride him, and
you can only get off if you jump into open air, and his footfalls are light, and we can tell he's moving fast by the way. Yeah, now, we get it. That
being said, I was reminded here about this. This piece of Shadowfax keeps you on his back, not vice versa.
Yeah.
Of the flight to the ford, when the horse that Oh, I can't remember the guy's name.
Glorfindel, baby.
Yeah, Glorfindel's horse is also magical somehow, and keeps Frodo on his back. Like there's something about about a heroic person and a heroic horse, and that horse can can it's like it like fulfills its own vocation by having a rider on its back somehow.
Logan, it is so auspicious. There have been 2 times in this podcast when I've identified a fun fact, and our brains have been perfectly aligned, and I swear we did not plan this.
No.
Okay, so the dainty, you thought about Dane, I thought about Dane. Maybe it's because Dane and dainty, maybe that's why our brains went there.
I want the readers to know, or the listeners to know, that we don't talk outside of this podcast. I don't even like Zach.
We hate each other's guts.
We just love love Lord of the Rings so much that we're compelled into this horrible arrangement where we have to talk to each other every week.
We endure it for you, fair listener.
But it's true that we didn't discuss this before the podcast. Yeah.
No, but your mind here went to Glorfindel. Very close readers, very soon after the publication of Tolkien, of Lord of the Rings, wrote Tolkien and identified that this is a mistake. Did you catch it? And it's precisely because of the Glorfindel horse.
Oh, does Glorfindel's horse have a
has a bit and a
saddle? Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that. That's
and so Gandalf here says, I don't ride elf fashion except for on Shadowfax. One of the most powerful elves in the entire book seems to also not ride elf fashion.
What did Tolkien say in response?
He creates like a retcon saying that it was like purely decorative. It had like, because he describes it as like having like bells and gems and stuff. Do you remember that?
Oh, it's like more like a blanket than a
well, it's like the bit and the bridle. I don't know if it like describes the saddle. I'd have to go back and look. But if you read the letters of Tolkien, someone writes Tolkien and he was, you can tell he was annoyed by this.
God, I bet he was so pissed off when can you imagine you've like spent 17 years writing this and then some little minion writes you. Actually, Gandalf, Professor Tolkien, you got it wrong. Like, okay, Wormtongue.
In the Flight to the Ford.
But yeah, I think this might be the only mistake in all of Lord of the Rings.
Interesting.
I can't think of many others. There were like typos and things that got fixed in subsequent.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, this might be one of the only mistakes that I think made it all the way to the final draft. Gandalf starts singing himself a little song.
Yeah, he's like singing. He's trying. It's like his way of thinking remembering is going over lore and singing songs to himself and kind of mumbling rhymes to himself.
But this is how we are kind of like, we're dumber than Pippin when it comes to the lore of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And so this is the way, it's a pretty clever way for Tolkien to kind of communicate this deep history to us. In all of this, Feanor being mentioned. Feanor is a key figure in the Silmarillion because he's the maker of the Silmarils. And the Silmarils have been discussed. But it says that Feanor himself maybe wrought them in days so long ago that time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. So Pippin had asked, did Sauron make these? And Gandalf is like, no. It was brought here by the Númenóreans. Like it was saved by Elendil and his sons from the downfall of Númenor when they tried to like make war with God, and God was like, no, sit down.
Yeah, all right. No more island for you.
I'm going to destroy your continent-sized island and swallow it in the sea. But there's 7 of these. And Palantir means that which looks far away. And so we learn that, this was made by the Noldor, the wise elves, back in the time when the 2 trees of Valinor were still the source of light in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was the stars and it was the 2 trees before the sun and before the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes back into like ancient time. Gandalf is like talking about how he's tempted. He's like, man, like even now, even knowing that Sauron has the other end of this like telephone, I'm still tempted to look back through time. He goes, how it draws one to itself. Have I not felt it? Even now, my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would, to look across the wide seas of water and of time to Tirion the fair, and perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. He sighs and falls silent.
Can the Palantir look back through time?
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I also was really, I thought this line, this is, I think, what made me think about cell phones. Perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves.
God.
And like modern life, like literally everything I interact with, our ability to do this podcast right now, I don't understand how it works.
Yeah. It's a series of tubes.
Yeah, right. It's not a dump truck. But you know, something about technology sort of like shapes our.
Yeah. And we lean pretty heavily on artificial intelligence in this podcast. You know, the way, you know, we live thousands of miles away and we're able to sync our, you know, our video and our voice. You know, we're able to edit using AI driven tools and all these things. Yeah. We're messing with, you know, what does Gandalf say? He who breaks a thing to understand it has lost all reason. We're pretty regularly playing with forces beyond.
Yeah, there's like a disembodied
control.
spirit that like comes in and like cleans up our audio every week. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
I don't understand how it works. And frankly, the people who designed it don't understand how it works. You talk enough to
The black box.
You like, yeah, you start to like, you know, read about these like AI people and they're like, we don't really understand it, but it seems like we can use it. I'm like, cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we have our next Tolkien / Gandalf word of wisdom here.
The burned hand teaches best.
The burned hand teaches best. After that, advice about fire goes to the heart. So he's like, hey, I could have warned you about not touching this thing, but you still would have done it. But fire teaches the lesson that words can't. And yeah, that kind of gets it, you know, how he rebukes him and says, you know, you say that you knew better, or you say that you didn't know better, but
you did.
Like, be honest with yourself. I'm not going to let you get away with that lie.
Right.
You knew better and you still chose to do it. But now Pippin says, if all the 7 stones were laid out before me, I should shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets.
But I also have another question. Pippin says.
Oh, I was like, what's your question?
And Gandalf was like, oh my gosh, please, no more questions.
Yeah. I'm all out of answers today.
All I'm going to do is, I'm all out of answers. All I'm going to do is answer questions the rest of the day. But Gandalf is more patient than I am because he says, what more do you want to know?
And Pippin says, the names of all the stars and of all living things and the whole history of Middle Earth and over heaven. Is you underline over heaven?
No, that's interesting.
You have Middle Earth and over heaven and of the sundering seas. Of course, what less? But I am not in a hurry tonight. At the moment, I was just wondering about the Black Shadow. I heard you shout, Messenger of Mordor. What was it? What could it do at Isengard? You know, they're going to get to Orthanc, and they're going to find Saruman held prisoner there. And Pippin is like kind of speculating, like, you know, what are they going to do when they get there exactly? They're going to find that I'm not there. They're going to find the stone is gone, and the Saruman is just kind of being, you know, held prisoner in his own tower. But Gandalf says he has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to trap the Nazgul, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides in the air. But I thought it was interesting, he may try to trap the Nazgul. Gandalf has a little firsthand knowledge about being a powerful spiritual being held in Orthanc against his will.
Yeah, right.
But either way, he says, this is the moment now that Sauron is going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Sauron is a rebel.
Gandalf, points out that, or kind of tries to change the subject here, I think, and says, "See now, the Westfold dales are opening before us. Here we come to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the deepening Coombe. That way lies Aglarond and the glittering caves. Don't ask me about them. Ask Gimli, and he'll tell you more than you'd ever want to know about them."
He's like, hey, your unquenchable inquisitiveness.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This is how I feel when I talk about Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Like, people may think that they want to ask me a question about it, but
but they don't.
Like, don't ask me, because I will not know when to stop, and I will not know when you're bored. You're going to have to tell me. My wife often warns people.
Don't ask them that question.
Yeah, it's like, you don't actually want that.
Mm-hmm. But they're like 300 miles from Minas Tirith.
Yeah, this is a really, like, sets the scale in a really interesting way. He's like, we're going to stop off at the Glittering Caves first. We're going to stop off at Helm's Deep, and then we'll stop at Edoras, and then we're going to ride on to Minas Tirith, but that's like 3 times farther away than
Edoras.
Edoras is. So it's leagues upon leagues, thrice as far as the dwellings of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east from here.
Right. But Gandalf says that he estimates that it'll take about 2.5 days to make it 300 miles.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fast on a horse.
It's fast on anything. Yeah. He's like, even the winged messengers of Mordor will take a few hours to make that trip. But he tells Pippin to sleep if he can. He says, "You may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the house of Eorl. And in 3 days thence you shall see the purple shadow in the walls in the Tower of Denethor, white in the morning." So I'll just share that image of Gandalf on Shadowfax with Pippin in front and Minas Tirith before them. That is such an indelible image of Lord of the Rings in my mind. When I first read this book, when I was in 5th grade, the copy of The Return of the King that I had that image, a painting of them kind of cresting the hill with Minas Tirith before them. Yeah. And so every time I get to this part and I get that image of them riding together on Shadowfax, like, that's Lord of the Rings, baby.
That's awesome.
And I love this description. Do you want to read, starting with "Away now, Shadowfax," all the way to the end of the chapter? So I think this is just worth reading in full.
Yeah. "Away now, Shadowfax. Run, great heart. Run as you have never run before. Now we are come to the lands where you are foaled, and every stone you know. Run now. Hope is in speed." Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud, as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. Then he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still as stone, seated upon the statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise of wind.
Incredible.
Damn, I crushed that reading right there. I didn't stumble one time.
You were like Shadowfax, baby, in the lands that you were foaled. You knew every stone.
I did want to stop, though, and give a quick
Fatty Bulger! Fire foes awake!
But that's the end of book 3. And now we don't get to hear about Merry,
any
Pippin,
of these guys.
Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli, Gandalf for like hundreds of pages. It's all Sam and Frodo and Gollum trudging through the wilderness.
We're about to meet Faramir. We're about to meet Denethor.
Faramir and his band of merry men.
Yeah, it's like Robin Hood. Yeah, you're so right. There's lots of great stuff coming up. But we are going to take 2 weeks off. We're going to keep recording, but we'll have a 2-week break. That'll give us a chance to kind of catch up on editing. This would be a great time in this 2-week break, for you to share the podcast with somebody who you think would enjoy it. And really, if you leave a short review on Apple Podcasts, that will go a long way in helping people find the pod.
I want you to share the podcast with everyone you know. I want people to think this guy's, something's wrong with him. Why do you love this podcast so much? Okay, please stop talking to me about it. I will subscribe. Take your friend's phone and subscribe. I don't even care if they listen to it. Just subscribe.
Share it with your friends. Share it with your enemies.
Especially your enemies. They need it. They need this.
Are you a middle school teacher? When the kids like checking their phones at the beginning of the day,
sign them up.
Yeah, subscribe, baby. All jokes aside, it really does go a long way. And
it does.
Yeah, we'll see you again in book 4. What's the name of the first chapter? Is it The Taming of Smeagol?
Taming.
We'll be back with book 4, chapter 1, The Taming of Smeagol. But until next time,
the burned hand teaches best. Say goodbye, Zach.
Goodbye, Zach.
Goodbye, Logan.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Bye. Caw-caw. Caw-caw.